Welcome one and all to episode 37 of Teatime. I'm Petter and this is James.
Hello!
And today we're talking about season 4 of the Attack on Titan anime, also called the final season for some reason.
The final, very long, extended season that
Yeah.
will end when we say it ends.
I think it's going to end up spanning over like 4 years or something like that. Because
Good
didn't it
night.
start at the end of 2020 and it's going to end next year, supposedly? So that's
Yeah.
2020. I mean, it's maybe like 3 years in all, but still over 4 different years it will have been airing in a way. But anyway, this discussion will be safe to listen to for all anime onlys, since while we're talking about the most recent season of the anime, we will also be comparing the events of this final season to the counterparts from the manga that it's all based on, but we will not be talking about anything of the manga beyond where the anime is at right now. So it's all spoiler safe. And we're going to go through 3 topics in this discussion. We're first going to talk about all of the visuals throughout the season, then the audio, and finally the changes, anything that's different from the manga. So let's dive into it, I guess.
Okay.
In the visuals, of course, I think the main topic, kind of as far as the visuals are concerned, is that Attack on Titan got a new animation studio for this season.
Mm-hmm.
Mappa took over after Wit, and personally, I don't think I have a clear preference. I really liked. I mean, as we've talked about on the 2 most recent episodes, we both loved Wit's work on it overall.
Yeah.
But then there's Mappa, which I guess it's not as like flashy in terms of the visuals in their animations, but they are far more faithful to Isayama's art from the manga,
Right.
which is something that I value a whole lot, actually. So in my mind, they're kind of equal. But what do you think, kind of in general, on the switch in studios?
I don't think I'd go as far as to say equal, although I do think Mappa has some pretty good stuff out there that can compare to Wit at times. Like Jujutsu Kaisen, I think the work they did there is really smooth animation a lot of the times and some very, very high class stuff. And not to say this is an awful adaptation. It's not. It's very good. But I don't think it matches up to some of their best works.
I see. Huh.
Yeah. And so when you compare that to what Wit did, which I feel like Wit really brought their A game. I mean, it was season 1 was the first thing they did technically as Wit, I feel like, if I remember correctly. So yeah, it's kind of hard to compare. But that being said, I do agree with you in that they both have their strengths. Wit went in their own direction. They totally changed the art style, kind of tried to make it their own. But Mappa went back and decided to be more faithful to how Isayama designed the characters. And I think they also decided to go on a different tone in terms of color and lighting and whatnot. So that just overall changes the experience we had in Wit, at least visually speaking. Although there are some consistencies, like, you know, the title cards, to be continued and whatnot. So it's enough to keep it consistent. And, you know, there is, it's not completely overturned and there's some continuity there, but
yeah, some of the liberties that Wit took with the designs, like coloring and stuff like that, like Mikasa's scarf remains red in even after Mappa took over, and the Basement Keys new anime design also stayed the same. So like it's they still stayed true to Wit's start to the anime adaptation.
Yeah, although they did give Mikasa the much needed tattoo, so that's good.
Yeah,
that Wit totally ignored.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correcting the injustice.
Yeah,
but no, I think Mappa has done a fantastic job, and I think over the 2 parts, I mean, if we can call them parts, is that fair enough?
Right. Yeah.
I think they improved.
Yeah.
And by the end, I was really impressed with what they did, and felt like it actually started to match up with some of the best animation Mappa's done.
Awesome. Yeah, and I do agree. I think the second part overall was much better. or maybe not much better, but it was better.
It was better.
I
Yeah,
do think it
yeah.
was definitely better than the first part. But anyway, most of the Titans are 3D animated in this season since Mappa took over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, of course, I prefer like good 2D animation over 3D animation.
Absolutely.
These 3D Titans are still, in my opinion at least, much better than any of the 3D Titans that Wit ever did. So in that way, I guess I can't complain too much. I think most of the pure Titans were 2D animated though, and there were
Mm-hmm.
some Titan shifters that were also 2D, even though most of them were 3D. I think
Yeah.
Annie's female Titan in part 1, when she appeared just briefly in like the flashback, I think she was 2D there. And
Mm-hmm.
Reiner's strange-looking armored Titan when he appears in Liberio, I think was also 2D.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the Titans that they didn't use a lot of, I think they 2D animated those.
Yeah.
And because they didn't bother making 3D models for those, I guess, which makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they didn't make Annie's female Titan 3D model until the second part when they needed her more,
Mm-hmm.
kind of.
Right. Totally.
There was also the fight between Grisha and Frida that we got
Yeah,
to
that
see a
was
glimpse of.
2D.
That was 2D, and that looked great, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was probably the most 2D Titan action that we got in the season, was that part. But I thought it was really good. And lastly, I'm quite sure Falco's Jaw Titan is 2D animated.
I thought so too. And there were some times where it was kind of simplistic in how it's drawn, but then we got really close, and yeah, you see all these details, and it was definitely looked like it was 2D.
Yeah, it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think all of the other, at least Titan shifters throughout the season were all 3D. The ones that I didn't mention there. But again, like I think they're better than any of the ones that Wit did before.
Absolutely.
Like, you know.
I mean, Wit really, they may have I think they outsourced to a different like 3D animator or whatever, but they really struggled getting those Titans to look natural in 3D.
Yeah.
And it was mostly just the Colossal Titan that was the issue, which
Yeah,
is ironic
yeah.
because there's actually another 2D Titan. The Colossal Titan is 2D
Oh yeah.
in Mappa, which is it's so funny. Like, Wick had to go to 3D, but Mappa kept it 2D.
I guess so. I guess it doesn't move much though, right? Or at least
No,
we
it
don't.
doesn't. Well,
So I guess that's why.
It did move, maybe not as many arm swings as Bertold did,
Oh yeah.
but it did move and was doing things. But you're right, it wasn't incredibly extensive movements.
Yeah.
So here's my take. Besides just being better than Wit, this is another example of part 1 being okay, but part 2 improving drastically. I feel like, well, drastically, it just being better. The Cart Titan and the Jaw Titan, they look pretty good to begin with. I mean, a little odd to see them moving when you have 2D characters in the foreground or whatever. It's a little bit odd, but it still worked. It worked fine. Reiner, I think, is probably the best 3D model in that part. There were moments where they drew they drew him in 2D, like his arm taking down the cannons or whatnot. That was 2D, but his movements like around the walled base, that was like fluid 3D.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it would have been much better if it was 2D, but I think it was fine the way it was.
Yeah.
My issue comes with the Beast Titan and actually Aaron's Attack Titan when he attacks Liberio. The Beast Titan just looks so unnatural, and they really struggled making that fit their style at the beginning. However, when he comes in Shiganshina, maybe it's because he's not moving as much, but he is still throwing things.
True.
There are moments where I could not tell if it was 2D or 3D. I thought it flowed that well.
Yeah.
There may have been I think there may have been a couple close-ups that were 2D. But I don't know, like it looked really well. They improved the model so much, not just for the Beast Titan, but for the Attack Titan, the Armor Titan, that all the Titans just looks, you could not tell at times if it was a 2D drawing or just a 3D model. Because they just improved the 3D model so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. I especially because like on the Beast Titan, because I feel like that's one of the, if not the most expressive out of the Titan Shifter Titans.
Yeah.
I guess like that might be why it's maybe the hardest one to get right or to get good.
Well, maybe
Um,
also the fur. I think the
oh
fur may
yeah,
be
that might be it
hard to
too.
make it look in the same style.
Right, right. Yeah. And like to me, the worst part, or at least what I reacted to the most as something not great, for the Beast Titan was when he was fighting Levi in the forest. That fight to me looked like was
You
probably the
mean
worst like Titan action sequence in my opinion as far as the animation went.
yeah, for sure. I agree. And then the Attack Titan, it definitely had its moments
Mm.
that looked good, but there's other times that it just you could tell it was. I mean, obviously you could tell, but it just looked awkward having this 3D model of a Titan that we're so used to seeing 2D animated, just
Mm.
moving so fluidly in the thing. It just didn't match up very well.
Right.
But it didn't take away incredibly like my enjoyment. And they eventually like there's a shot at the end of the first part where you see Aaron's express his face and his Titan face and it's just super detailed. It looks great,
Mm.
and that it kind of carries on into part two, where it maybe not as detailed, but they really capture again the 2D style in the 3D model, and I
Mm.
think from there it's pretty consistent. And I kudos to Mappa for figuring it out, or whoever they got to do the 3D animation. They figured it out, and I think it
Yeah.
looks great.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. There definitely is an improvement there for sure. And I think especially the Beast Titan, I think, or at least to me, I think that's
Yeah, I
where
agree.
there's the biggest improvement.
Uh-huh.
But something else on the topic of animation, in the second episode of the first part of the season, I think there's two or three scenes where they use this method or technique that I think is called retroscoping.
Rotoscoping.
Oh, I see. Uh, but anyway, yeah, they use this technique, which I know has been criticized rather a lot, or at least I've seen people complaining about it, which I think is fair.
I'm
Like,
one of those.
yeah, I personally I don't mind. Anyway, but by the way, to anyone who doesn't know which like what this is, it's I think the biggest scene where it's like the most prominent is when Udo is talking at the
Gosh.
harbor in
Uh-huh.
like as at like after they won the battle in Fort Slava, and he's moving around like a lot. Like there's a lot of motion there in a way that looks different. I guess that's my best way to just describe it. There's also when they get home, Gabby at the dinner table, she's moving her arms around a
Yeah.
lot, and like there's a lot of like those sorts of motions, which also just look different in a way. I think it may have been used also when Magath and Zeke and Colt were talking, also after the battle at Fort Lava, or like
Hmm.
at the beginning of that scene. I think I may have noticed a little bit of that because that was also in the same
I can see
episode.
what you're saying. Yeah.
Although I'm not as sure. Regardless, it was only in that episode, as far as I'm aware, that they used that technique in some instances. And personally, I don't mind it too much. Like it didn't stick around, and I thought like it was kind of fun. Maybe.
I wonder like, well, why don't they do a whole anime with rotoscoping? Huh? Why not do that? It's because it looks unnatural and uncanny.
Yeah. Right.
It,
Yeah. Uncanny. I'd say. Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the issue, especially when you have like maybe if everyone else was doing like I was saying, like do a whole entire anime like that. But I think you just run into uncanny valley, and especially when they're the one character that's moving this fluidly.
Mm.
Granted, when Gabby's talking, like her father, rubs her on the head, and he's also rotoscoped. So there's other
Yeah.
characters that are moving, so
Mm.
it makes it a little bit better, but it's still just awkwardly fluid, and not in the same way as some of the better animated moments in this season.
Right.
So yeah, for me, it is off-putting, and I'm glad they didn't really use it much. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they kept using it in different places, but they just didn't put as much focus on it. Like
Right. Yeah. 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 Like maybe it's in the background somewhere where it's not in the
right,
focus.
uh-huh.
Mm.
So that it's not as off-putting. But yeah, those two moments
Yeah.
were for me not great. I mean, it was funny. Like Udo's scene is kind of fun. It just makes it funny,
Yeah.
I guess, because he is kind of ranting
Right.
So then all of a sudden he's just like really smooth, moving his arms up and down and stop. It's kind of strange, but
Yeah.
yeah, but anyway, those are my thoughts. But I understand, like, not being too or upset with it as well.
Yeah, especially since they didn't like keep it around as like a big
Exactly.
thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It is interesting how they really just experimented around with it for that one episode. Like
Right.
I that is pretty interesting, and like again, like I don't mind. I think it's kind of neat. But
Mm.
yeah, I'm glad they didn't keep doing it, I guess. When the Brown family was having dinner together, Reiner tells them about, his time on Paradis, and as he's monologuing, the camera is slowly zooming in on him, and something like this is, I guess, a change in a way slightly, but it's not my point here. In the manga, they flash to like a different panels that show basically what he's talking about. Like we get to see the characters that he's referring to. We don't get to see that in the manga, or sorry, in the anime. Instead, the camera is like slowly zooming in on Reiner as he's speaking, which I think has an effect in and of itself, which I really like. And what I especially kind of enjoyed there is how we can see the shadow of the raindrops outside the window on Reiner's face and on his shirt, like on his person. We can see
Mm.
that kind of just like this falling rain of the shadows of that on him, which I think has a pretty strong effect, along with the music and his the voice acting and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
that detail largely I think was something that I really appreciated there.
I respect the direction that these two parts have. Like, they, especially in the beginning few episodes, Mappa kind of took some creative liberties, maybe not in the same vein as Wits, like, all the
Mm,
filler stuff, but
right.
they would add, maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but well, I guess I won't go into too much detail, but just they did add some very cinematic, like, either scenes or shots
Mm,
that I thought were very well executed, and art wise looked very good.
yeah, absolutely.
If you don't mind me going back to one of your beginning points and mentioning that
Mm,
Mappa's art style, their art direction, is very similar, or is more inspired by what Isayama did,
mm.
and I agree with that. I do think that they struggled at times with the faces. They do feel like they've gained a few pounds in their cheeks, like in their face.
Oh.
Um, and maybe that, I mean, it does look closer to what Isayama does, but there was times in the beginning of part one, especially when the previous characters that we had seen in Wit's style come on, they just look like they had, like, too many hot dogs or something like that. Like Flock, for example,
Ah.
when John is talking to him, he just turns around. And he's like, "Well, you know what? I don't care what you think. We're gonna bring back the Empire of Elia." It was so funny. They got better, and
Huh.
obviously I have my biggest complaint. I'm saving, but
Uh-huh.
they they got better over time, and yeah, I like. I really like what Wit did with their character direction and their art style. Like, it's a really nice art style. But I respect going back to the roots and trying to have a uniform look to the manga. Like, I
Mm,
appreciate that
for sure.
that attempt.
And I don't know, like I remember when the Blu-ray came out for this, at least, yeah, part 1 of season 4.
Uh-huh.
I know that I saw a lot of comparisons, like the same screen basically, but how
Yeah.
they updated, because they actually updated a lot of the designs basically, and like the way a lot of characters were drawn for the Blu-ray to make them better. And I don't know if they did improve Flock or not. I can't remember, but I could imagine that they may have.
Why would
'Cause
you improve perfection? Like, I don't.
I know they definitely improved Mikasa's face in that one part when
Yeah.
she appeared, like pretty shortly after she had appeared in the season, because
Hmm.
there's like a close up of her face that's pretty bad
It's rough.
in the like streaming services releases, but on the Blu-ray
Hmm.
it's like really good. Like it's as it should be basically.
Yeah. I agree. I went back and saw and compared what the Blu-ray looks, and like, yeah, that's actually closer to what Isayama did. It was so funny. So my big complaint that I was saying was Mikasa's design. I think they
Ah,
really struggled at the beginning, like what she should look like,
yeah, that's
especially in her
interesting.
face.
Right.
But towards the end, they figured it out. Like they actually got like, hey, I can accept this. This actually
Mhm.
looks good, and it looks like what Isayama was drawing. But in that scene where she comes to save Eren, and especially that close up, they just really messed up. I remember
Yeah.
people were defending it, and you could defend what people. That's fine. It's your
Right.
opinion. But
Uh-huh.
they would take like the panel of what Isayama drew and compare it. Say it's exactly the same. It's like no, it's not. It's not the
Yeah.
same.
No,
You.
yeah, no, I agree. She doesn't look like herself
No, she
in that
doesn't.
shot, like in that close up when she's on the square there with Aaron.
No.
Yeah, no. Uh, but luckily they did update, so
Yeah.
on the
They got
Blu-rays it's
better.
all good. I have the Blu-ray release. Have
Uh-huh.
seen it, but I didn't see it for this rewatch. So I did see that bad face now most recently.
Yeah. Maybe I should get it just for that, just so I could see
It's
that face. I
worth
mean,
it.
I've seen it before, but it's yeah, definitely worth it. But no, like they improved, and the table scene, like they got her face, like it's basically 1-to-1 with how Isayama drew it,
Mm,
and later on scenes, like it's not just Mikasa, everyone pretty much looks as they should for the
yeah,
most part.
I agree.
They do look a little chubby in the faces a little bit. I think they give them a more chin.
Maybe.
I'm not
Actually
exactly
haven't thought
sure how to
about
explain
that.
it.
I
Like
but
it's more of a jaw thing,
uh,
but I'm fine with it. Like, and I think again, as I've said ad nauseum, it's the same as uh Isayama. So, or it's similar to his design. So
mm,
I'm
mm.
good with it.
Right, right. I will say some of the, or at least in my opinion, and then maybe this is totally subjective, but some of the girls, I thought in their anime designs, they became cuter here than they were both in Wit's designs and in Isayama's designs.
So who specifically you're thinking about?
Annie is really the only one that can be compared to both
Mm,
Isayama's and Wit's design. I think she
yeah.
is cuter somehow. I don't know. I can't put my finger on why or how, uh, and also Peak I think is cuter than she is in the manga.
Oh yeah. They,
Uh,
they really did justice for Peak.
and,
Whew.
yeah, and also
Boys, we can't mess this up.
no, they did not. But and also Hitch is also cuter than she is
Oh
in the
my
manga.
gosh, you're right.
Uh,
They went hard on Hitch. Like, what did you do? Like, I mean, good job, but my goodness.
I think it's mainly those three, at least for me, that they're just super much like a lot cuter than they have been before.
Yeah,
Like I
I
love
agree.
them just in general, but for some reason they're
Right.
just even cuter than usual here.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally forgot about Hitch, which is shameful, but yeah, you're right. And you wouldn't think, because I really liked what Wit did with her too, but I think Mappa's design of Hitch is better. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Uh, uh.
Anyway, um, oh, I was gonna. Well, so what about Historia? What did you think about her
um,
redesign?
I I guess I don't think I had any strong opinions on her actually. What about you?
I don't think I do either. Like it's actually feels like it's pretty consistent.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, just a change in a bit of just art style, but
Hmm.
nothing crazy that I
Right.
haven't said already.
Mhm.
But I think they, for the most part, Aaron looks incredible as an adult.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they gave him bajillion ab muscles. That's all you need.
for sure.
Um, and yeah, I think all the other characters are great too.
Hmm.
Another thing I wanted to bring about the art direction is, how Wit had their thick lines on the character borders.
Yeah, for the first two
Um,
seasons at least.
yeah. Well, it seems like Mappa's thing, their lines are these shadings around the eyes and underneath the chins. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not in Isayama's style, is it? Like those lines everywhere?
I think they are.
Oh, they are?
I mean, I could be wrong here. I do think they are
Okay.
though. Or
Well,
at least.
I'm gonna grab a volume right now
Oh
and
yes, yes.
just
We
double
must get
check.
to the bottom of this. No, but I think I at some point I can't remember from whom or when or where, but I feel like I heard someone at some point refer to those lines as like Isayama lines or something like that. And I felt like to me they felt
Oh.
like they were from the manga.
No, yeah, you're right. They're there. I
Mm,
just
gotcha.
kind of put it out of my head, I guess.
Mm. Maybe it feels different when it's in color or like compared to just black and
Yeah.
white or something like that.
Because yeah, in the manga form it just seems like, well, a type of shading as it is in the anime as well, but it doesn't seem like it's as distracting. I don't know.
Ah,
It's not terrible, but it also just kind of, it doesn't look great. I don't know, but I mean, it makes it sound like I like dislike what Mappa did. I don't. I like it. I think it's great, but the lines just, it felt a bit much at times. And I saw a filter. I think someone who had worked on the show kind of had a clip on Twitter. And they showed like a process of like Falco or something like that, and
mm,
the lines were a filter that they add on, you know, like a layer, if you will.
right.
And so without the lines, it was like, oh, that I really like that. And they put the lines on. I was like, then you ruined it.
Oh.
Which is sad because it makes me sound like I hate what Isayama did. It's like, no, I don't know. With the color and everything in black and white, I think it makes more sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
But anyway, that's my
Interesting.
strange nitpick.
No, no, I'm sure there's
You
people
should
that agree with
probably
you.
ignore.
I get to I just didn't really pay it much mind, honestly. I thought it fit, I guess.
That's good.
Mm,
That's good.
mm. I love the whole transition into paths. You know, after Aaron's head was blown off, we get this whole thing where the camera moves through Shiganshina as it's just kind of frozen in time, or seemingly frozen in time, which I like in and of itself. I think is a pretty cool sequence. But then we get the sequence that takes us into the to the coordinate and paths, and I love how we got to see Sana Reiner there among a lot of the different memories, quote unquote, or whatever we want to call that, which was a really cool. Like that's actually a new addition to the anime. But we also got little Goth Mikasa and Otaku Armin, which are in the manga, but they were, I guess, presented to us in a little bit of a different way in the anime here.
Hmm.
But anyway, like that sequence in and of itself, like even not necessarily talking about those Easter eggs, is just such a cool sequence. I love it so much.
Yeah, they did a great job with that.
Mm.
It's good. It's great to see. Like, it's a little different than how they did in the manga, right?
Yeah, yeah. In the manga, it's just one page with a bunch of small shards, basically, that show different things in them at the same time. Which it makes sense that I think that they changed it, and I think they changed it in a really cool way.
Yeah, agreed. And it worked very well.
Really did. Yeah, I remember that when I saw that the first time, I felt like I was like on something. Like I was tripping on something.
No, I think that's perfect. Like, and it doesn't just start with the flashbacks, but it starts with how everything is kind of paused.
Right.
In the actual where, you know, it's something's about to happen, kind of
Uh-huh.
a moment.
Totally. Do you have a favorite action sequence from the season in terms of the animation?
Oh,
Like scene or maybe specific
yeah.
part of a scene or just a general big scene?
I think my favorite one has to be the second to last episode, Retribution. Is that what it's called?
Retrospective.
Retrospective. That's it.
Mm.
It is phenomenal.
It is. Mm-hmm.
What they pull off, like, it's just amazing fight, or just battle sequence after battle sequence, super fluid. You know, with the 3D Titans involved, like it's all so well done.
Mm.
It almost as if they let their best animators just go at it. Even Phlox, you know, his attack on the flying boat, that segment they just did beautifully. It felt like I was watching some of Wit's best animation moments. You know, like it was an amazing chase scene to that point when he gets shot down.
Uh-huh.
And then Mikasa, her just show off moment,
Yeah.
which she maybe goes a little too far when she sets off the thunder spear on the two guys who are already dead. Yeah, that was maybe a bit much. Definitely not in the manga. Sorry, spoilers for our third segment, but they definitely wanted to be flashy and let their animators have fun.
Yeah.
And it was incredible.
Yeah, it really is. That was going to be my answer to that question as well in terms of favorite.
No.
I'm happy that we agreed on this. I mean, it is, and I'm sure a lot of people agree with us on this because it is just such a fantastic sequence. Well, with so many parts like coming immediately after each other, that just like one after the other just blows you away, in how it looks and how it just how it all works out. So good. It looks so amazing.
Yeah. Honorable mention is also in part 2. Is I feel like the segment where Eren is trying to touch Zeke, fighting Reiner and the Jaw Titan, and then everything else that's happening. I think it's pretty well done, pretty well animated, and
absolutely
definitely one of the most suspenseful moments in the series.
For sure. That was right where we started covering the podcast or the manga on our podcast back in the day.
It may hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah. Oh wait, actually, I think this month it was 2 years since we started Titan Teatime.
Oh my gosh.
3 years. No, 3 years. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That's right. This month is our 3-year anniversary of Titan Teatime.
They grew up so fast.
Wow. But yeah. No, that I do agree that is also a fantastic sequence.
Can I mention a dishonorable mention?
Oh, yes, please do.
And it's not so much that it's terrible, but I hate it. No, it was definitely lackluster, and I understand why. It's the campfire scene that I know is one of your favorite chapters. I feel like they adapted it poorly.
Really? Okay. Why?
The reason being is, and I'll put some excuses why they did this, but most of that episode, not just the campfire scene, most of the episode is just focused on background, maybe panning on a background, and then disembodied voices talking, like people are having conversation. You'll see them at times, but if you do see them, they would be super close on their eyes. You don't see their mouth moving. It's just their eyes or an angle or something like that. There wasn't a whole lot of animation, and when they were showing any sort of animating, besides like some of the big moments, it was just trees, like foliage, a branch breaking off or something, it just, it was a lot of that stuff with people talking over it. And I mean, I like backgrounds too, but maybe I think they went a little too far. Now there were some good moments, John running over to Reiner and
right
and whatnot.
I mean, the entire ending there is definitely animated.
Right. And the content within it is good. It's just how they went about doing it. I think why it ended up being lackluster in terms of animation is because I just think they felt like, okay, the guys are just talking. We can cut some corners here and put more effort into animating what we thought was the best segment, that second to last episode.
Right.
So I feel like that's what happened there.
Gotcha. Yeah. I didn't really think of that episode being the way you described it. Although I understand that it was, like, thinking back, like, I understand that it may have probably been that way. I guess I was just too kind of caught up in the moment to really, well, to criticize it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is a very emotional, and especially for sort of people who these are their favorite characters, which, I love these characters as well. It's an intense moment, so I totally understand.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, for me, like, I have a soft spot, like a big soft spot for Jean, Magath, Hanji, Reiner, Gabby, which I'd say those are, like, probably the main characters of that chapter or of that scene. But yeah, I think you're right that they did decide to take it easy with that episode in order to give more focus to other ones. But I still think it works though. Like the fact that it is mostly just conversations. I don't personally really mind it, but it's still a fair. I think you're definitely fair in criticizing it though.
Thank you.
So I love the visuals for the first opening, or the opening of part one here. I mean, it's pretty basic, like pretty simple. Like it's nothing
Yeah.
too like. It's mostly just sort of the same sorts of visuals, kind of. But I think it works. I think it works really well. Like I love the
Yeah.
colors and the explosions and like all of that type of imagery. And I also kind of value that it's probably the least spoiler heavy Attack on Titan opening out of all of them.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't show anything really.
Right. You really wouldn't know you're watching Attack on Titan until you saw, you saw the first moment where it shows the title of the thing, but also the
Right.
very end where it shows kind of like the statue or whatever versions of the Titans.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I don't know. I just love the the smoke and the rain, like the aesthetic of all of that. I think is beautiful.
Yeah, I agree. It's equally creative as it is disturbing
Yeah.
at times.
Yeah, for sure.
And it kind of brings up kind of horrific moments of war,
Definitely.
or not just moment, but just historic things, like kind of have like a Nazi march that was in there as well.
Yeah.
Or something that was probably similar. I don't.
At
think
least,
actually...
yeah, right. Now, at least it kind of revokes those sorts of
exactly.
thoughts.
That kind of military, I guess.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, I liked it, and what I like about it compared to the other openings is it's just different. It's unique. It, like you said, doesn't spoiler, but it doesn't really feature the main cast at all. It doesn't at all, except for the end.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you just see kind of Eren's Titan at the very end.
Yeah,
and that's it. But then there's the visuals for part one's ending. I think are just really pretty.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say other than it's just really pretty. It's very pretty to look at.
I think it matches the song itself in that it's kind of psychedelic, and I like having kind of Falco's point of view. As you see him, you also see Gabby and Reiner in it and everything.
Right. Yeah. The people that are close to Falco.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's great. And then we got part two's opening sequence. I think looks amazing. But probably the most spoilery.
It really is
out of all the Attack on Titan openings.
If you were able to get through the entire anime to this point without getting spoiled by the manga, or people have read the manga or anything like that, and you watch this and you see the rumbling happening, you're like, well, okay, well, thanks opening.
Yeah,
I guess the rumbling's happening. Like what?
Yeah.
It didn't have I don't know what they should have done, but maybe just hold off on the reveal that Eren was actually going to rumble the world,
Right. Yeah.
Come on.
It's weird. I love a lot of I love this opening for the visuals.
Yeah,
for a lot of things about it.
Speaking,
it's just the spoilery aspect of it is strange. Because when we were at that part in the manga, when we were reading it, we didn't know for sure if Eren would or if there would be a big rumbling until it happened, pretty much, kind of.
Right.
So yeah, that's something I guess I feel a bit sorry for the anime onlys for that one.
This opening does the visuals does remind me of the previous openings. Like it's like on par in terms of consistent. I feel like it shows the characters. It maybe it's kind of similar to Red Swan in that it's kind of edgy, and Red Swan is not really edgy. I guess it's more, like we said, corny or whatever. But
yeah,
this one's definitely while the visuals are great, it's also very edgy. Like Eren screaming on the wall, like
yeah. I think the visuals, like kind of the style of the visuals, remind me the most of the second opening in the first season. Actually, like that type of, I don't know, just the style in it.
Yeah.
But there's so many details in this opening that and like a lot of fast, like just really quick shots that make I think some of the details pretty easy to miss. My favorite detail is one, like it's maybe like one of the hardest ones to catch. Although I'm sure like most of the big fans have caught it, but it's when
let's see if I caught it.
It's well, obviously we see flashes of pretty much all of the main characters, and there is one flash of Porco sitting in a room looking out the window, and his reflection in the window is not himself, but Emir Freckles.
Bro, I don't think I saw that.
Oh. No, I mean, it
No.
is really easy to miss. It's like a really quick shot, and just like the reflection isn't super clear either. So it's really, I think it's maybe the most easy one to miss. But I love that detail because, well, I guess part of it is because it's an easy one to miss, but also obviously that's a previous Jaw Titan that he got a lot of memories from.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Now, I guess in addition to spoiling the rumbling, this opening also spoils Annie's return.
You're right. It does. Like, what the heck?
Yeah. So there's
I
a
guess,
lot.
like, to be fair, I'm sure people, because, like, as we, the manga readers, were like, well, when is Annie going to come back? You know?
Yeah.
People are probably hoping for it to happen anyway. So maybe it's kind of like either, well, of course it is, or maybe it's like, oh, yeah, she's finally going to come back. Kind of a thing.
Right.
Whereas I feel like the rumbling and maybe some other things are just going too far in terms of letting the people know what's going to happen in this part.
I agree. But moving on to the part 2's ending sequence, which I like to view as kind of Aaron's answer to Mikasa's first ending of the first season.
Yes.
It's kind of like,
I wrote the same thing, man.
nice. Because it really has a similar kind of energy to it, and yeah, very sweet.
Yeah, it's also very sad.
Yeah.
And not talking about the song yet, but just as you see these places of parody just in ruin and everything.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just something about it that's not melancholy. I guess.
Well, I think a little bit.
Bittersweet.
Or yeah,
maybe
bittersweet too.
But I also like just the visual of Aaron walking forward and keeping moving forward, and everything. But I totally agree that it's a kind of an answer to the first opening or ending.
Yeah. But then I guess we shall move on to the audio discussion, and let's kick that one off by talking about the openings and endings, since we were just talking about those for the visuals.
Sure.
So the first opening, well, for part 1 by Shinsei Kamata-chan, they came back after having done the ending sequence for season 2, and I think it's my favorite Attack on Titan opening song out of all of them.
Yeah.
It took the number 1 spot from Guru no Yumiya for me.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious. Did you love it when you first heard it, or did it just grow as the weeks went by?
It definitely grew on me. I didn't like. I think I always liked it, even from the start. Although I didn't. I don't think I loved it right away. But it grew for me, and it grew a lot. And I have been listening a lot to the full version of the song, which obviously has some more to it, naturally. But yeah, I think it's an amazing song, and it's like the type of stuff that I would just enjoy listening to, just in the background whenever, kind of.
Yeah, it definitely grew on me, but I had a lesser opinion of it when I first heard it. There's elements of it, especially now, that I like, but it's just not a song that I would choose to listen to. You know,
that's fair.
But some people dance to it. Like some people, like, I feel like a lot of the internet really. It grew on people to where they adore the song, and I would hear high schoolers kind of humming it.
Oh, sweet!
It was like, wow, that influential, huh?
That's cool.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's better than their other song that they did for the season 2.
Fair.
It's one that I could definitely stomach and enjoy more. Not, although I think in our previous discussion, I said, like, I was more okay with it than I was before. But no, I think My War is a fitting song. It was when I first heard it, it was kind of whiplash from comparing what we would hear normally from the openings to this one. It did feel kind of there was a big difference.
Yeah, definitely.
But, anyway, it's still a good song, I'd say.
It's a great song, I'd say.
That's and if you love and whoever's listening adores that song, that's totally fine. For me, it's you know down on my list of openings. I don't know if it's my least favorite opening though.
Oh yeah. Yeah, one of these days we should rank all of the openings and endings. One of these days. But let's move on to the ending song of part 1. I think is just as beautiful as the visuals that it goes along with. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. It's like I said earlier, it's psychedelic. It really is not a typical kind of song, but it still is pretty to listen to.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Actually, there are parts of that song where the strings remind me a lot of Shinsei Kamata-chan's song that they did for season 2. Like that there's a part in the season 2 ending song that sounds similar to a part in this ending song here. I guess I haven't gone back to try to find exactly what it is, but there is something that gives me like strong vibes of that ending song from season 2 in this one. I don't know if it's only me, like maybe it's just in my head, but yeah, I guess I should look that up more thoroughly at some point, but there's something in the like the violins or something like there's a melody that sounds, or that reminds me at least of a lot of that song from season 2.
Gotcha.
And I don't know, like, if that is the case, if it was an intentional choice or whatever, I have no clue. But anyway, moving on to the opening song for part 2.
Yeah.
I'll say it's not my cup of tea, like the genre of it, I guess.
It's definitely someone's cup of tea.
Absolutely.
It's not mine.
Okay, not yours either. I see. Yeah, I don't know. I just personally can't really stand like the growling or screaming or whatever it's called, like that type of singing style. I don't like it much at all personally. Although whenever that's not in the song, like whenever they're not singing that way, I think it's a perfectly fine song. Like the chorus overall, I think is perfectly fine.
I would hum it, because I think it's actually a pretty good melody and has a nice harmony, and I instrumentation's pretty good. It's just when they do the rumbling part, or the make way.
When they do that, I don't like it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but some people love it, and that's totally fine, acceptable. But
for sure,
yeah, I couldn't listen to it in if I was, because I have most of the songs from Attack on Titan, like the openings, like on a playlist. That one, I just because of that, I can't. It's just not for me.
That's fair. For me, I would have all of the opening songs on there except for this one and Red Swan.
Oh gosh, you hurt me so much. But we're hurting someone who adores the rumbling. So
yes, yeah.
Take
that. Speaking of spoilers for that opening, by the way, the song is literally called "Rumbling." But yeah.
I mean, look, like I said, like nice visuals, and it had good moments in the song that we think like pretty good stuff.
Definitely.
I just why go all in on that spoiler? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Like, if they had used that for the opening for like part 3 of this season, sure, that would have been perfectly fine, and maybe even more fitting. But
yeah.
Anyway,
crossing my fingers for Sound Horizon. Well, that's one, but Linked Horizon.
That would be cool.
It would be cool to get them to do the final one, but anyway.
I think I would be equally.
I'm fine with whatever.
I would be equally fine with either Linked Horizon making a comeback for the opening for the part 3, or if Shinsei Kamata-chan would do another one, I would be all down for that as well. Like either of those two, I would be equally good with.
I'm sure Isayama would prefer Shin Matsu no Kamae-chan.
He would. Probably. But anyway, the ending song for part 2. I guess sorry, go. You go.
I'm going to take over because I adore this song so much.
Awesome.
I cannot stop humming this one. Like I said, I would sometimes hum the rumbling song, but this one is like when we were talking about the first opening just now.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't think of the tune because the only one that come up, and maybe because I
Oh.
was watching it, but the only one that come up was this one,
Ah.
the Akuma no Ko. Like
Mm.
I love it so much.
Awesome.
It's beautiful. It reminds me of the first ending, and like you're saying, it feels kind of like that love letter, and it talks about how you just love how much they love him, and I just it's good.
Would you say it's your favorite ending song from Attack on Titan?
Oh gosh, no, because number one still exists.
Okay.
The first ending, and
Mm.
and Akatsuki no Requiem is
Yes. Oh, yes.
incredible as well. So
It is.
it's probably top three though.
Fair, fair. I will say for me, I like it. I'm not crazy about it though.
Fair, fair.
I guess it's mostly positive, but it's not like super high.
Okay.
I guess on positive, but I do like it. It's definitely a good song.
I'm glad you can stomach it.
Oh, I mean, I can more than
that
stomach
makes me
this one.
feel good.
Yeah, it's not like season 3 part 2's ending or season 3 part 1's opening or well, anyway.
You monster.
I know.
I'm kidding.
Well, then I guess moving on to other music from throughout the season, there is an amazing piece of music. I don't know any names of the songs or anything. I haven't really actually listened to the soundtrack by itself for this.
Looked it up.
However, there is an amazing piece of music that they use here and there throughout the season. I know it was in the trailers before the season came out, and it's just this really hype music. And the first time they used it is when they dropped the Titans onto Fort Slava in the first episode, or at least that's when the music starts, and then it kind of continues a little bit when they're attacking the fort. And the same song returns at the end of part 1, like at the very end of that episode, when Peak points at Eren and Porco comes up and bites Eren's legs off. Is the same music there, which I thought that music basically tied that part of that season together really nicely, since it wasn't the first and the last episodes. At least it was there the most prominently in those episodes, I'd say. And it was also during the battle at the harbor, the one that we've praised for the animation. And I think it also appears maybe here and there, at least like a little more discreetly at some other points. But I see that music as kind of the main theme of I guess this season, kind of. And it's just really hype, and it's great for a lot of these intense and action-packed moments.
Yeah, I agree. So we have a new composer with this final season.
Yes.
Officially, I mean, obviously Sawano tracks are still used, and I'm pretty sure he helped out at times. But it's at least Yamamoto. I forget what his first name, Kota or something like that. And it's hard to follow up on one of the greatest OSTs ever made from Sawano. But I think he did a pretty good job.
I think he did a great job.
Yeah, great. I mean, not trying to downsell it. He did it, great job. I'm not gonna say it's as legendary as what Sawano did, to be honest.
Fair.
But I do agree that main theme is fantastic. It really does kind of bring up that terror and also a bit of hype.
Yeah, right.
But he uses the themes from Sawano's tracks from his OST and combines it into his own music at times. And I think it makes for a lot of pretty good moments. I'm not gonna say that it's all as iconic. For example, I can't really hum the tunes, and maybe that's because it's not as long as 3 seasons worth of content. But still, I don't think it's as stick in my head kind of music. However, it's still some great tracks, and they're played at important moments, and I think it was a great job.
Absolutely. Yeah, and as you mentioned, how he supposedly kind of took some of Sawano's stuff and altered them a little bit, which it did throw me off like a few times when I thought they started playing like an old track from one of the previous seasons, and I was like, and then something else happened, like something else was added or it went a different way, kind of, and I was like, well, wait a minute, like I guess this is a new song. But yeah, so, like I do really like that. I think one of those instances was when they were getting drunk in Marley. It starts off with this kind of acoustic music that I think is like, at least the melody of it is from one of the Sawano's songs from one of the previous seasons, but then it becomes something a little bit different after a while, and it's pretty cool. I like how they were able to do that, and how they weren't, I guess, completely strictly set on making all brand new music.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah, I think it helps with the continuity. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
this is like the start of kind of a new season, if you will, or not season, but a new series, kind of,
Yeah, almost. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it helped solidify that this is a different tone, but also kept the feeling of the show still. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like how, like, yeah, some of Sawano's tracks were just straight up reused, which I love that, that
Right.
they were able to do that. Like we talked like last time, my favorite song that Sawano ever did for Attack on Titan, they used that in at the beginning of Ymir's backstory sequence.
You're
The
right.
do
Yeah.
do 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 do, and
Yeah.
it works great there.
It's
Like
so good.
it's all, it's like it's as if though it was made for that, and it's just so amazing.
Yeah. I think my favorite callback to Sawano's music, I think it may be a slightly different arrangement as it leads up to it, but it's when it's the final episode when Eren starts the rumbling on the mainland.
Yeah,
I forget which track it is, but it's one of those iconic Sawano tracks.
yeah,
And
it is.
I was not expecting them to use that, because it didn't seem like that they were taking those same tracks and using them in big moments as they did in the
Yeah,
first few seasons. So when it happened, it was pretty hype. And I mean,
yeah.
obviously it's terrifying what's happening. So I feel bad for saying hype, but still,
Right.
that was a great use of that music, and
Yeah.
it just brings so much terror.
For sure. Although I thought the, like, toward the very end of that, like pretty much right before that episode ended, I think it was modified slightly. I think. I could be wrong
Oh,
though.
I like I was saying, I think it may have been like a slightly modified track.
Mm, mm.
But
But still.
yeah.
But I guess I'm gonna try to focus more on the new music from now on.
Sure.
If there's anything, one of the things that I really liked was kind of the chaotic sounding piano music that played during the transition from Reiner's flashbacks, and then it transitioned back to present day when Reiner was about to shoot himself in the head or in the
Yeah.
mouth. Like there was this really chaotic piano playing, which just helped create this really eerie vibe to the scene, and just, I don't know, I mean, that transition in and of itself is already like unsettling, but the music there really amplified that, I thought.
I agree. Yeah, that chaotic music, yeah, just works so well.
Yeah. There's also the music that plays when the parasite attaches itself to Ymir in the water, and it continues into when she's transforming into her Titan for the first time. It's also one of these really eerie music that really fit that scene so well. I love that so much. It really sets the mood in a super effective way.
I wrote down here Sasha's death, the music when Connie states her death. I can't remember. Was that? I probably should have been more detailed. I can't remember if it was a Sawano track or if it was a new one. Either way, I really liked it, and I thought it added to the emotional impact of that moment.
Yeah, I actually can't remember now what that song sounded like, but the moment is great, and I'm sure the music fits really well.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite tracks from the season was just this really sad music that played when Magath and Shadis sacrificed themselves.
Dude, yeah.
It's super, like, it's such a sad, it's like this piano and violin track, and like obviously that combination of instruments, I mean, you almost can't make it happy with those instruments together. It just has to be a sad song. But anyway, yeah, it's a really, really effective piece that always makes me cry when I see that scene. Like, I mean, the scene itself is great, but the music adds so much to it there.
Agreed. Yeah. I was just gonna give one last shout out to the main theme that Yamamoto creates. I know we talked about it, but just I was trying to remember what it sounded like. It was really funny, but I think it is one of the best tracks in the entire series. It is so
Yeah.
good.
Oh yeah. Totally.
Dun, 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 dun. It's just
Yeah.
it's epic. It's terrifying.
Hmm.
It's everything that this part of the show needs to, like, the emotions that
Yeah.
need to be there are
Totally.
brought by this song. So it's great.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the way that song usually builds up from something very kind
Right.
of discreet at first, and then just builds and builds and builds into this massive
Mhm.
kind of yeah, really big thing. It's so cool. But the last music shout out that I wanted to make is the well, in the last episode, in the flashback when they go to Marley, in the scene when they're talking to Kiyomi inside her building or whatever, wherever they're talking to her, there's this pretty calm background music that plays that I really, really love. It's not necessarily that like I don't. It doesn't stick out much. It's just kind of there in the background while they're talking to Kiyomi, but it's great. I wasn't able to tell if the lead instrument was just a regular violin or if it was like an eru or something like that. But it's a really beautiful sounding like string instrument at least, and it's a track that I want to listen to. I think by itself. Again, like I haven't listened to
Mm.
the soundtrack by itself yet, but this track I will actively seek out to listen to because I thought it was really pleasant.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna go back. I wanted to do that before the recording, but things came up.
Mm,
I'm gonna go back and listen to the final season's soundtrack and just
yeah.
pick out the good ones and just really see. Um, maybe I'll end up really loving it as much as I adore the Sawana's OST.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Yeah. Because obviously this music hasn't been out as long. Obviously,
Yeah.
so we may not have we may not have had time to appreciate it as much yet.
Right. The nostalgia hasn't poisoned our minds yet.
Right? For sure. So true. But moving on to our favorite voice acting performances, and I just want to mention the maybe the most obvious one,
Go for it.
Yoshimasa Hosoya and as Reiner and
Yeah.
Yukikaji as Eren when they're talking in the cellar. Both of them delivered so well during that scene, and
Yeah.
obviously it's crucial because that scene, I mean, it's one of the strongest scene of the entire manga. I think every Attack on Titan fan will agree with.
Yeah.
And so obviously it was important that they did do that one well, and they did. They absolutely nailed it. Oh, so strong.
I 100% agree. It's an amazing performance,
Mm.
and let's not forget Zeke either. Like, he has
Yeah,
incredible emotional roller coaster there. Voice actors just do so much. They can
yeah.
carry the scene so well.
It's
Um,
honestly.
I love it.
Yeah. Gabby's voice actor Ayane Sakura, I
I
think,
was
is
gonna
also
mention her too.
terrific.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I think she's probably my favorite out of the new voice actors for that were introduced in this season.
She nails Gabby so well.
Right?
Like,
Yeah,
it's almost exactly as I would have pictured in my mind.
it really totally is. And she's able to capture so many emotions in her
Yep.
voice, like everything. Like I think it's especially noticeable, at least a lot of the time, it's through her scenes with Kaya, where
Yeah.
it starts as this really hostile kind of heated fury that directed at Kaya, which she captures really well, and then by the end it's something completely different after she understands everything, and they're able to become friends. She has like this completely turned around attitude toward her, which she also captures beautifully. And I think my favorite, or one of my favorite voice performances by her, that isn't one of these heated ones. Which I mean, there's a lot of that from Gabby, but one of the other ones is when she's with Falco and Colt, and when she
Yep.
she finally understands that what Reiner was talking about, and that all Eldians are just humans. Like she delivers that
Yeah.
so beautifully. It's maybe
Agreed.
it's one of my favorite voice acting moments in the scenes in the season.
So many good scenes, but that is
Yeah,
definitely one of the best. It's
yeah. It's hard to pick one.
her. You can just hear the revelation in her voice.
Yeah.
Just coming to that realization and everything. It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I guess going to one that's a little more emotional or not over the top, but high strung is Nicolo.
Ah.
And him realizing that Gabby was the one that killed Sasha.
Mm.
It's just his whole performance there. I just want to bring a brief shout out to Billy Kometz, who passed away from colon cancer a few weeks ago.
Right.
He was the voice actor in English for Nicolo, and
Oh, I see.
I was obviously watching in Japanese, but I did see I've heard him in other mediums. Fire Emblem, he's Ferdinand von Ayer in the English dub.
Mm.
And so when I heard about his passing, I went back and watched some of his great performances, and Nicolo was on there. And so seeing that again, I just want to give a shout out to his performance, but also this Japanese voice actor. I don't know his name, but the Japanese voice actor's performance here is just incredible as well.
For sure. Yeah.
So yeah, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, sadly I've only heard the Japanese voice performance there, but
he's got a very distinct and great voice.
Yeah, and he's able to capture like both the sadness and the rage really, really well, I thought.
Yeah. And, Kaya, her performance in that scene in Japanese is very good. Especially since for the most part, yeah, she had some high strung moments a bit, but she didn't really ever yell. But that was the moment where she just lost it, and I thought it was very good.
Yeah, it's very powerful. A voice performance that got me way more emotional for some reason than I ever thought I would get on this most recent watch through that I just did was Hanji's voice actor's performance when she welcomed Yelena and the other people on the boat to Parody. And she's just pretty crazy, and she's just like it's just, well, it's Hanji, and it's, I don't know, when I saw that last night, I think it was when I watched that part, my tears, or my eyes started watering, and I don't know, it was just this weird feeling like that out of all of the different things that could potentially affect me in that kind of a way. Like I was surprised, but I was for some reason very moved by that. It was just maybe it was just because it was a long time since I saw Hanji that way, sort of, and it just it's fun to see Hanji being Hanji. But it was just so well delivered, like all of that, like the enthusiasm and positivity and everything. I love that.
Indeed. You mentioned Yelena. I think they got a great voice actress for her.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
Kind of a deep alto type of a voice, but she has some really great performances that capture the character well. And then last one I'll mention is Peak. I think they casted Peak very well. It's kind of a small tangent, but have you ever heard like the comparisons between the dubs for Peak?
I have not.
So like the Japanese dub is cute. The American dub is good. I think they got a good voice actress for her. But then like the Spanish one is like super sexy or something like that.
What?
So when she's on the all floors and she says like "Good morning, Pac," like she's like, I can't speak Spanish, but she's like, "Good morning, Pac," like super sexy. Like what? We got really spicy all of a sudden.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I'll share it with you, the link. I think it's pretty funny.
Please do, yeah. Oh, that sounds funny. And well, my last voice actor performance I want to give some praise to is Grisha's voice actor when he confronts the Rice family, and also in the scene right after that when he's outside of the chapel. Just that entire part, he just it's easily, I'd say, hands down one of my like one of the best voice acting performances that I've ever heard. Just in general, like the like all of the emotions and everything, like you can really feel all of it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, speaking of Grisha, just when he's freaking out because Zeke is not performing well as a warrior, like that. I remember reading comments, people just being they were afraid, like they had like PTSD themselves, which is very terrible. I'm so sorry people had to deal with that, but just shows how great that performance was.
Yeah, I'm for sure. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard to see and hear, like when for those scenes. But then you get like the scene that I was talking about, which is obviously a completely different type of scene, and it's one that makes you feel for Grisha. despite
Yeah,
all of the dreadful things that we know that he's done in his past. But
absolutely. I mean,
yeah,
complicated stuff, but
for sure,
totally,
absolutely.
totally feel for him.
Mm.
I'm surprised you didn't. I thought you were gonna mention Reiner. Like you don't. How, did
Or
you? I mean,
well,
maybe
I mean
goes
for
without saying.
the basement scene I did mention, but I think
Oh, you did mention. Okay, yeah, fair.
I don't think there
Yeah.
was a whole lot else that he was really like really impressive with.
Uh-huh.
Like he was great throughout, I think, but like the basement scene, I thought was easily the highlight.
Yeah. So you want to know something funny?
Hmm?
When you were talking about Reiner and Aaron, I thought you were talking about Grisha and Aaron because you said basement, and I thought you
Oh,
meant the chapel, and that's why I mentioned Zeke
oh,
there. I'm so
oh,
sorry if I got you lost. I'm
oh, that makes
so
sense now.
sorry because you definitely. I'm pretty sure you said Reiner,
I
but
mean, yeah,
in my head,
I think I did, and I think I mentioned his voice actor's name too,
yeah,
Yoshimasa Hosoya,
I
but
was like, okay, I'll believe you. my
uh,
my bad, yo.
all good, all good.
Yeah. So ignore what I said earlier about Zeke in that moment. I meant Zeke in Paths.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
He didn't really have that much in that
Mm.
in that part.
Yeah, yeah, the
Um,
Zeke and Pat is amazing. Mm.
yeah, Zeke in Paths, and his closure with Grisha. Well,
Mm.
partly, and
Yeah,
that Aaron's moment in that point as well is also very impactful. Like him shaking uh,
yeah.
Grisha and um, everything that goes down there. So I think both that basement scene with Reiner and that memory scene with Zeke, Grisha, and Aaron
Mm.
are key points within within part one and part two, respectively.
For sure, for sure, definitely.
Anyway, sorry for all the confusion.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Maybe
uh,
your magical editing will make it better or not.
we'll
Either
see.
way.
We'll see. It's all good though. Let's move on to the sound effects for whatever there is there. Um, this season has a lot more kind of gunfire sounds than the previous ones did, obviously.
True.
Like the Marley arc
Yeah.
especially. And I think all of that was really good. Like I think there was a good variation in that and it sounded natural.
Yeah.
I also love when Aaron is crushing the Warhammer crystal inside of Porco's jaw.
Oh yeah,
Like the
yeah.
sound
That
of
was
the
great.
crystal shattering
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, it's dreadful kind of in a way, but it's really good, and the music also adds to that moment as well. But yeah, those are some great sounds.
Agreed. And then just the rumbling itself, I thought was well done.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I guess nothing too different from Titan stomping, but I think they captured
Mm,
the deafening sound of it fairly well. Maybe not as deafening as some people would wanted. Like
I
we shouldn't
guess.
be able to hear Mikasa and Armin. It's like okay, well,
Yeah,
sorry.
actually, that's kind of a little bit of a nitpick that I can agree with, since
Oh,
in the
okay.
manga we couldn't read their speech bubbles at the beginning of that,
Ah,
but we could hear them in the anime.
okay. You know what? All right. I'll step back.
At
I'll
least
agree
right
with
there.
it. I'll say, yeah, maybe they could have gone kind of a in and out type of a thing in audio where it's just really hard
Yeah.
to hear instead of just Mikasa be like, what?
Right.
What?
Yeah. But I guess on the topic of the rumbling as far as sound goes, at the end of the scene where Annie and Hitch are riding, when Annie's, telling her story, um,
Uh huh.
I love the absence of sound that they used there at the end of that scene, because the sound of the galloping and the rumbling, both, like, all of that vanishes, and all we hear is the music and Annie's and Hitch's voices. So we're just focusing on their conversation, and
Mm.
I don't know, that I thought that was a really cool effect that just contributed to making that scene more emotional for me, at least.
Yeah, I didn't think about it, but I agree that the use of silence is
Mm,
very, very smart.
it can be effective, yeah. Anything else on the sound or audio in general?
No, I think I'm good.
Then let's get into the changes. So, a really early change that they made in the first episode was that they added some lines to Falco while he was trying to remember everything that was going on at the beginning.
Yeah.
He says that he remembers flying around with swords, and I think that's a neat little added detail that suggests that all Titan shifters can get memories from their predecessors even before inheriting that
Mm.
Titan. They're the Titan. Like the memories that Falco got here are most likely from Ymir. When she was swinging around with ODM gear. Being a soldier and like on parity.
Mm.
It's most likely those memories that he, for some reason, like suddenly kind of got there for a moment. So I think that's pretty interesting since we learned that he became the Jaw Titan later.
Yeah.
Like that's maybe like the biggest like I guess added change I'd say probably from this season. I think
Maybe
as
the
far
biggest.
as far as like lore stuff goes, like the implications of
Yeah,
it.
definitely
It's
lore. Yeah.
at least yeah.
I mean, as I was saying earlier, a long time ago, in this beginning part, they added, or Mappa added a few kind of disturbing scenes about kind of war and what it
Mm,
does to the people in general. Like you see a man who jumps off a building,
yeah.
um, for whatever reason, having to relate to
Well,
just
yeah, like
terrible
all of
life,
yeah,
the war
just
and everything,
having developing some like all sorts of like
PTSD or something like that.
PTSD or other mental illnesses from being in war. Like it's really tragic, and it obviously is very real too. And I think
Yeah.
I think they're good additions that really
Oh yeah.
emphasize the brutality and the dreadful nature of war. But yeah, I love the other little pieces of stuff as well. At least in the first episode, they linger on the soldiers more than they do in the manga,
In the trenches.
and I love that. I love that. I think those are great additions.
That's absolutely my favorite. The them in the trenches
Yeah.
as the Marley commander is telling them to get ready and everything, and you got one guy shaking as he
Mm,
kisses the pendant in his hand, and
yeah.
it feels very real.
Mm,
Um, Even though these are a bunch of no name Eldians, it's still you still get a sense of just the horrible things that the Marley government is putting the Eldians through.
right. Yeah. Yeah. It's very effective.
Why add John buying a newspaper? I don't know. I guess just to get people excited, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, and didn't he also appear briefly at some other point, also before the actual reveal? Or was it
I don't
just that one
remember.
time? Regardless, I thought it was a pretty nice addition. Like, it's not a big thing, but it
Mm-mm.
they were there. We know that they were there ahead of time, or at least some of them were. So yeah, I think it's nice. Plus, I get the feeling that I kind of get the feeling that Mappa was trying to get to the quote unquote main characters quicker. Like they didn't want to leave the audience hanging with the Marley cast for too long. So giving some hints of Jean there sort of may have been part of the attempt there. Plus, I kind of feel
Mm.
like compared to everything after the Marley arc itself was more rushed than anything that came after it because they wanted to be done with that and get to the characters that everyone knows and loves, or whatever you want to call it, which I think is a bit of a shame. Like, I don't have too many complaints on it, but I did feel like, the Marley arc is essentially 2 chapters per episode. Meanwhile, a lot of the time after that, they kind of do a single chapter per episode. Not
You're
always,
right.
but a lot of the times they do.
Mm.
Which, the Marley arc never got that treatment. But I'm a little bit sour about that, I
Yeah.
guess. Oh
Yeah.
well.
I mean, there are scenes that I would have liked seen animated just because I think either they're cute or they add some good character growth. With Cabby and Falco. But
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand them not being necessary because I feel like the story was told, but it would have been nice for Marley to take its time
Right.
and tell those extra scenes.
For sure. Like, yeah, like, because I can agree, sort of, like, there is one scene right when they get back to Liberio, when they get off the train. That scene was kind of
Yeah.
cut short, where in the manga it kind of continues a little longer, where we get to see a little bit more of Gabby's and Falco's dynamic and how Falco is crushing on Gabby, but she's oblivious to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty sweet scene, but there is a somewhat similar scene that happens a little bit later, so with that in mind, I was like, okay, fair. Like, I can understand cutting that one. It's fine.
I just wanted a super close up of Gabby because I thought it was such a great panel from Isayama. It would have been really funny to
True.
see it animated, but I know it's not necessary. However, I imagine you're going to say one that you felt is.
Oh yeah, I'm right about to. So listen up.
I'm all ears.
Basically, there's a scene that I'm really upset that they didn't do fully in the anime, and it was kind of briefly there in the anime, but just very very like they just kind of used a small part of it, like right after the family dinner at the Brown place. There was just a very small fragment of it, but in the manga, it's a super sweet scene that I thought really shows how deeply these two cousins care about each other. Gabby tells Reiner that since they're blood relatives, there's a high chance that she will inherit his memories if she inherits his Titan, and that way he will live on inside of her, and they will both understand even the things that are too painful to put into words. And like that's one of my favorite scenes of the entire manga, probably, honestly. And the fact that it was not there really in the anime is, I'd say, my greatest sorrow when it comes to the adaptation of my favorite arc.
Mm,
But
yeah.
oh well. It's really the main, like kind of like that's kind of the only really big thing. Like
Mm-hmm.
if that one had been there, I don't think I would have really had many complaints at all about the contents of the Marley arc in the anime.
Fair. And it is a shame that wasn't in there because it's a great interaction between those two.
Really is. Oh well. I liked the added scene when Willie Tybur says goodbye to his family. I thought that was really sweet.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was very nice. And my favorite added thing to the anime in the Marley arc, at least. And hey, maybe I'll say one of my favorite things in general when it comes to like anime only stuff is well, one of them for sure is how inside of the artillery that's attached to the cart titan, the
Yeah.
panzer unit guys have these like a bunch of photos of Peak on the walls. It's so great. Like, I love that so much. Like rightfully they're big Peak fans just like us. And like one of them, I don't know if you noticed, but one of them had like a picture that was kind of risky, and or I think one of
No.
them did. And I don't know how he got his hands on that. Like it
She
makes me.
plays favorites.
Yeah, she does.
No, it does remind me of like World War I, World War II, where you would have paintings of these risque girls on planes or whatever.
Mm.
So maybe, or maybe it was later on where I can't remember, but so, I don't know. Maybe that's something similar to that.
Maybe.
But either way, that I do think that's a really cute. Is that the right word? Like,
Yeah, no, I
kind of
think it is. I think it's
just
pretty
how
cute.
much her unit really likes her.
Mm-hmm. It's such a great addition. Like I want to just give a big hug to whoever came up with that idea on the anime team. Like it's so genius, honestly. uh,
They must have listened to the Spanish dub.
oh yeah, yeah. But speaking of risky, Mappa showed Zeke's butt in all its glory.
Not even Isayama had the courage to do that.
Yeah, he completely cut it out of his panels, but it's there, and they kind of show it for quite some time too, in the animes. I think that's pretty nice.
Pretty brave of them.
Yeah, yeah,
I love the additional kind of background scenes we get for Ymir's backstory. How
yeah,
you see her village get attacked by the Eldia tribe,
yeah.
and it just gives kind of more context to how she became a slave.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was too much else added after that. Maybe a couple things
Yeah,
here and there, but
right.
nothing that I can pinpoint.
Mm.
But
That was
no,
definitely
I
the big
like.
one, though.
Yeah, it just kind of made that scene fuller a bit.
I agree. Yeah, honestly, there are no additions in the final season that I have any type of gripes with. Unlike, well, season 1 and 2 had, in my opinion, a lot of that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't think there's anything that I dislike out of the added stuff in this season.
I mean, that's the thing. Marley arc aside, the adaptation has been very faithful, and they have not really gone off on their own filler things to, I guess, make 24 episodes, like, or 25
Right.
episodes, excuse me.
The biggest things is kind of that they go out of order here and there, compared to the manga, because
Yes.
they do that.
Although Wit did that too.
True, true. Wit did that too at some point, at some points, but yeah, the Marley arc does that a little bit. Like Reiner's flashbacks are all lumped together into a single episode in the anime, which I think
Uh-huh.
that's a fine choice. I don't mind it too much.
Yeah.
It's spread out a little bit in the or in the manga, but then after the Marley arc, when we get back to Parody, I think there's a lot of things going in pretty drastically different orders, but it still works. It's just a different way to go about it.
Yeah. Probably the change that I'm most curious to hear your opinion on is
Oh.
them moving the chapter, is it 123, where the Cervicora go and visit the mainland, and Mikasa gets her ice cream, all that stuff.
Yeah.
They move that chapter towards or to the last episode of part 2,
Yeah.
and put it together with chapter 130.
I think yeah.
And so I remember when it was airing, people were very distraught that we may not even get 123.
Yeah.
We did eventually, and I'm not sure what the discussion was from the manga readers, if they liked that change or not. I thought I liked it, and then I rewatched it, and I did. I think it's a great thing to put Mikasa's perspective and kind of Aaron's perspective of that same time frame together, and that it was a good ending note for the part 2. But do you feel similarly, or would you have preferred to have it? Because I think it's actually better where it is here.
Okay. I see.
And not to say what Isayama did was wrong, but his it's a manga, pacing's gonna be different. But I like how they went straight from the start of the rumbling, and they just kept going until they get on the boat, and that's that.
Yeah.
Or they have the flashback.
Right. So, well, real quick, just for any anime only who might be listening, in the manga, that chapter, or that part, when that flashback when they go to Marley for the first time and that they're there eating ice cream and getting drunk and all of that, it comes right after the rumbling begins, like right after Eren gets out of paths, basically. Like that's when it starts, or when it happens in the anime, or sorry, in the manga. Anyway, so my thoughts on it, I really like it too in the anime. Actually, I don't think I think it's better. I think in my mind, I think it's pretty equal. Like I love the way that it comes in the manga, but the way it comes in the anime works surprisingly well as well. I think,
Yeah.
Especially because at that point in the present day, they just left Paradis on a boat,
Right.
going to the mainland, and then next thing we see is this flashback when they're arriving on a boat on the mainland. So with that in mind, I think it works really well, kind of, to put it right there. So, and yeah, I really don't mind the restructuring there at all.
Cool.
But anything else on the changes? I don't have anything.
No, that's it. That's all I got.
Nice. Wow, we are done with our rewatch of the anime, James.
Matt, oh my gosh.
This has been, even though like it's only been 3 months, like 3 episodes, it's been like compared to how much kind of work we need to do for an episode recording. This has been quite a lot of work. Watching quite a lot of anime episodes. Meanwhile, usually we just read a single manga book most of the time for our preparations. But this has been it's been hard work, but I think it's been worth it. And I'm glad it's over, but I'm glad to have done it as well.
I mean, it's so rough having to watch one of my favorite animes. Oh my gosh. I need a vacation.
Yeah, right.
No, I mean, it's different when like you have a deadline and you have to watch something, you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah, right. And you have to take notes while watching and stuff like that. It's a
exactly.
different way to watch it, I think. I mean, it's still enjoyable, but it is a different thing.
Yeah, I still had a good time, and not just talking about final season, but overall, I've just grown more in love with the anime, and yeah, obviously there was things like from season one, and season three, part one, that I was kind of disillusioned with, and
Hmm.
like I have a more better understanding of my thoughts on things. But at the end of the day, I still think it's a fantastic production, even or including season four, the final season,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, it's Mappa has done a good job at continuing where Wit left off, and I can't wait for when it's finally over. I mean,
Yeah.
it, the manga is finished, obviously, but from the moment that final chapter dropped, I have been waiting so patiently
Oh yeah.
for the final chapter to be animated, and I can't wait to see it. I assume next year.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's not much left. Like there can't be more than one part left, right?
No.
They can't do a part four after that. There's no way. Because there's literally 2 volumes left to adapt. That's 9 chapters in total. They've got
Mm-hmm.
it. Like and like that can't be that much content anyway. Like it can't be more than like I mean if they do a chapter per episode, which is a bit of a stretch to begin with, then it's nine episodes. But it's probably gonna be less than that, I think. So,
Why
hmm.
they don't just make it to a movie, I don't
Yeah.
understand. I know some people disagree with me, but I think it's just begging to be. Uh, as I drop my drink,
Oh,
but
that's what
no,
that was. Okay.
sorry. Um, but it's fine, whatever. But anyway, however they do it, I mean, it's gonna be TV episodes, but however many episodes it is, I'm just glad that it's coming, and
Yeah.
they better not make it any longer. So help me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let next year be the end of the Attack on Titan anime. Very well. I guess that's it for this month.
Yep.
Nice. So, if you enjoy our content, you can follow us on Twitter at Umami Manga, and it would be lovely if you'd like to support us by either rating our show on the podcast platforms or subscribing to our channel Umami Manga on YouTube. If you like this episode, please share it with anyone you think might enjoy it too. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time when we'll talk about the No Regrets manga. Bye bye!
See you later. Should I mention the fact that I've moved or that I'm in a different recording situation so people, or do you think just doesn't matter?
I don't think it really matters.
Totally fine.
I think it still sounds good.
If they mention it, we'll just explain it.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Doesn't mean in the podcast. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Sounds good.